Okay, now it's recording, so we can just get started. Do you have
Cool.
do you have the questions open on your thing, or should I just read them out?
Yes, I do have the questions.
All right, so I'll read them out anyways, because the audience can't see the questions. So,
Of course.
in your own words, what do you define as like a hero in fiction? Do you think there's rules, or are there any requirements to achieve that role?
I think a hero in fiction doesn't have a plain set of rules because they vary in scope and in nature. They're supposed to have their own specific themes, character traits, and their overall tone. However, I do think that the fundamental nature of a hero, like the term itself, should always come back to the basic hero's journey formula. I don't mean they have to replicate it entirely, just the idea that all heroes, in some way or another, call back to this basic formula in some capacity. All of them start out kind of in their own unique bubble. Even if they're already in the wizarding world, per se, they're not aware of the new world, whether this be a different take on life itself, like just philosophy, or actual power.
Okay,
And
yeah,
that itself sets their own journeys.
I agree there, because I've used this example in the other recording with Joe, and we agreed that as long as the basic formula is followed, then that is a hero. And there's like a wide scope of heroes, but the fact is that um Dante isn't a hero, but he does like go into heroic actions. Dante commits heroic deeds even though he doesn't have any heroic motivations. Dante isn't a hero, but he's not a bad person. Being a
Right.
being a good person and being a hero are wholly different.
In fact, I'd argue Dante is an anti-hero.
I'd agree with that, because I mean, Dante gives off big anti-hero vibes.
Yes, he does. Also,
Um,
for the audience, the Dante we refer to is from Devil May Cry, and it's
yeah.
amazing.
Uh, please play the games if you haven't. Don't play Devil May Cry 2. Um, that's a warning, not a request. Um, okay. So again, to get Superman is definitely a hero because he has
No
heroic
way
motivation.
around it.
He has heroic motivations. He commits heroic acts. He goes out of his way to save people. Um, there is literally no way you can argue Superman is less of a hero than anyone else. He is the basic formula for. He made the basic formula for a superhero.
Bro, the one hero that came out like 2 years before him that no one knows.
Like fucking. I have to bleep that out. Even Robin Hood, like, even Robin Hood, who
Please,
is like,
huh?
what?
What about Heracles, huh? He's a total hero, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but well, okay. Do we count Heracles as a hero?
Are you trying to say that he's not a Greek hero?
He is a Greek hero, but is he a hero by modern standards?
Modern times are so, contrived, really. Like, why are we using that as the limiter, huh?
Because if there are no limits, and this would go on, then we'd spend 10 minutes on one question, which I would be fine
Okay,
with.
but he follows he follows the hero's journey, though.
He follows the hero's journey, but like but a Greek definition of hero and modern definition of hero are inherently different. Also, Heracles
You're
was a
just you're
jerk.
just being biased. You're just biased against Heracles.
Heracles was an absolute jerk.
That's why we like Hercules more.
They're the same person.
I know, I know.
Uh, okay.
Although to be fair, the entire word hero comes from his name.
You are right there. You are you are right.
So really, who are the real heroes?
I'd still count Robin Hood as like the first. He like the template for the modern hero is 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 Robin Hood. Like does good without any motive or reasoning to do good.
That
Because
is obsessively, unironically, excessively, all these random words I don't actually relate to what I'm talking about. True.
yeah, I would also like to note that whenever I think of Robin Hood, I'm still stuck on one Doctor Who episode that actually has him bite the Doctor with a spoon. No, wait,
Okay, but
it was the other way
did,
around. The
did you
Doctor,
ever doubt the power of the Doctor? Really? Like, are you trying to doubt it?
that was like my third Capaldi episode, so you know,
Good, good, because you can't doubt the power of the Doctor.
I can't.
I'm an American, and I'm an American, and I know the power of the Doctor.
You're an, I taught you better. So,
No, 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 no. I read right off the internet. That's how I know.
I taught you better. But but in my eyes, the basic concept of a hero is do good to do good, and also, like people are like, okay, people say that Batman isn't a hero because he's like brutal and stuff like that, but at the same time, I don't think his methods. I think his methods are both exaggerated when people talk about it, but but it's also exaggerating like how much harm he actually does to people. Because if you're not talking about
Back.
because if you're not talking about the fucking Arkham games, then usually Batman just sells for like one punch and they're down.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's a mixed bag. Because on one end, Batman is brutal, right? But like he's a non-lethal brutal. He'll break your legs, and that's just it. Like that's really it.
That's really the
And
limit.
that's pushing the limit, really.
Yeah.
People get all mixed up because in the more action-based material he's finishing him off with these cool finishers, and he's flying across the room, and it's like realistically they would have just died. In reality, in the comic books, he's so much above a human being that like they give him so much power where he's not even really human anymore. They could punch you once and you just like fall out.
It's like I'm trying to stray away from the topic here, but um when Batman fights someone, he's not fighting them to hurt them. He's fighting them to avoid hurting. He Batman's fighting style is made to avoid hurting people. Like, um, like he's stealthy because he wants to get things done quickly. That in its own is heroic as fuck.
Yep.
So, and like again, talking about figures that aren't heroes but have like the do heroic actions. You have Kratos. Kratos is incredibly brutal, but
Like Kratos is different, right? Kratos is 100% a Greek hero, and I will not take any exceptions because he half of his actions. Okay, yeah, they make sense. They're justifiable. The other half, no. What's he doing? You don't have to go that far.
um, that is fair. Like again, I talked about this with Joe. Kratos has like has like selfish motivations to do most of his shit, but like at the same time especially in the later games, he's doing heroic things like um in the 2018 game, the fourth one, Kratos is like actively restraining himself from hurting others. And while he could easily have settled most of his issues, he actively decided not to because it would be better for everyone else. That's the sort of restraint you'd expect from an actual hero. Does that
Well,
make
there took a
Kratos?
lot of development to get there.
Yeah.
It did take him a lot of development to get there. He did not start out that way. Let's just put it like that.
He did not. He did not.
Hephaestus did not deserve what happened to him at all. He just wanted to protect his daughter.
Mm. Hephaestus really did not deserve that at all. Um, he did not. God, I feel bad for him.
Just wanted to protect his daughter, and Kratos was like, ha 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 ha, no.
Yeah, and but especially if characters like Kratos, that's when you have to say, no, this is not a hero. This person just does good shit.
Yeah.
Because and then you have like the really extreme examples of this is definitely not a hero. Homelander.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
But Homelander's a deconstruction of what heroes are.
yeah. Well, spoiler alert. We're gonna get back to that later. But in my eyes, Homelander is like the perfect example of this is not a hero, this is a maniac. Like an actual maniac that needs to be stopped and needs to be put down. I might be I'd say I'm being a bit harsh, but I'm not. He actually needs to be put down. He's an actual menace.
Homelander is the living embodiment of if power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Exactly. And
That's his entire shtick, and it
like
works.
I wholeheartedly believe that at the end of the boys, Homelander is probably going to be dead.
He should have died a long time ago because a soldier boy, but we don't talk about that.
Yeah. Okay, so next question. Why do you think people like action heroes? Action heroes is like James Bond, Kratos, I guess would count if you're going back there. Dante, obviously. And then like you have other action films like Kingsman, Bullet Train, and then you have like superheroes like Iron Man, Captain America, like the Hulk, like
Well, like that's a multifaceted question because each person has their own different allure. On one end, it could just be narrative. People just like stories, right?
yeah.
Some people just like to read, right? On
Mhm.
another, it's escapism, right? Some people just don't like the reality we live in because it's very limiting. And not only is it limiting, but it's hard to live in all the time. It's often boring too.
Yeah.
90% of your life, not even 90, 60% of your life is doing things you don't want to do unless you enjoy sleeping, right?
Yeah.
Because 30% is the work time you're putting in to live in your day-to-day life. The other 30% is sleeping, and the last 30% is your free time. And most of that free time is doing things you need to survive half of that time, like paying your bills or buying food for you to eat, getting
Going to
clothes,
school.
maintaining your car, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So for the most part, reading comics or just watching movies is just an escape from the very droll, dull, and awfully disappointing lifestyle we live on a day-to-day basis.
And like Captain America himself is I'm using Captain America as an example because I remember why he was made. Captain America was made as like a distraction from like a wartime, as like both a distraction as like a, oh, this is definitely gonna get better type thing for people during World War II. Captain America was made as a response to what's going on in World War II. He was made to like be an inspiration to the American people.
Which is
And
very similar to what happened to all the stories from the ancient myths. All of those myths are just stories told over the campfire to pass the time, to distract them from the lives that we're living in, whether that be the war they were having against other countries with the 300, or talking to each other after after a great conquest. Ah,
yeah, it's like
it,
the
it's
concept.
all just
it's like
Distractions, escaping.
yeah, like action hero, like not action heroes, like just like fictional heroes. And like regardless of like religion or belief or faith, there's always going to be like there's always going to be an inherent need to like look at something and believe that yeah, this is nice because it's different, and it's different because it isn't boring. That's why that's why people generally don't like generally don't read nonfiction, like nonfiction stories, because usually nonfiction stories cover topics that we should already know.
Right. I think
And
on a last. Oh, go ahead.
like some nonfiction stories can be interesting, like true crime. But at the same time, they can be incredibly boring and incredibly dull. Like,
Also depressing, right?
yeah,
Because most of the things that you should know or do know are how much your life sucks, how much you're just an insignificant speck in the grand scheme of the universe,
pretty much.
or how much the government's screwing you over.
Yeah, it's like that's why people like fiction, and that's why people like James Bond when it first came out. That's why people like Doctor Who. That's why people like Superman and Captain America, and that's why people are going to continue to like fiction, regardless of like how like of like how it's been butchered lately. I guess butchered in some people's point of view. My opinion, it's still the same.
I
Um,
think another layer exists beneath it, though, right? Not just that people need fiction because they like the distraction, but sometimes fiction is supposed to represent things that we can't achieve on a day to day basis.
um,
Superman is the standing pinnacle of what we all want to be, quote unquote, we, as human beings. We want to be that person who can solve anything. We want to be the person that other people can rely on. Kal-El is true, like, that's his alien identity, but Superman isn't Kal-El. Superman is Clark Kent, raised by Martha and Jonathan Kent on a farm, doing good because he wants to do good, doing good for the sake of doing good.
that's also why I hate this statement. Superman is Clark Kent, because Superman isn't Clark Kent. Clark Kent is Superman. It's the phrasing.
That's a better way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, it's like Clark Kent is Superman because Clark Kent is the boy that was raised, and Clark Kent is the human. Clark Kent is the actual human that was raised by human parents. So,
That's
and
why the dichotomy between Batman and Superman even exists, because Batman is a human who's not a man, and Superman is an alien
Yeah,
who is a human.
Batman is Bruce Wayne, and Clark Kent is Superman. It's
No,
subtle.
Batman is Batman. That's how it works. You know that's how it works. Batman is Batman. Bruce Wayne died that day in the alley.
I mean, it depends on who you ask.
No, no, no. That's objectively how it is. You don't get around it. Batman is Batman. Bruce Wayne died as a little boy in the alley.
Depends on who you ask. I'm just saying. Uh,
Uh-huh. It
yeah.
also depends on who you ask what Joker's backstory is, but we all know the correct answer is he has none.
No, no. The correct answer is that he is insane.
No, the correct answer is he has no backstory. He's just an anomaly. Because the Joker isn't a person, it's a force of nature that comes up to fight Batman.
It's like exactly these sort of like discussions that also make fiction really appealing, because no one's gonna sit down and wonder who the Zodiac Killer is. Like, of
I mean,
course,
some people do, but like, I don't think any of them are popular on the internet.
yeah. Like some people, like police officers and all of that are obviously going to do that, but the general public isn't really concerned about. They don't want to look into the depressing like monotony of life all the time, and like that is pretty much what would happen if everyone was suddenly obsessed with like real life serial killers. It'd just be more depression. That's why fiction works, because it's like this is an example of something that happens in real life, but we aren't showing you, but we aren't making you depressed because like this actually has a good ending.
It should also be noted that fiction also is a gateway into solving those issues, or at least being commentaries on them without being one-to-one to them. My favorite example of this is Teen Titans 2003. There's this one episode, right?
Yeah.
It's about racism, but like every other right series nowadays are so obvious about their commentary that it takes you out of it. You can't like it, and it's just like pandering. What 2003 did is, yeah, it was about racism, but it wasn't about the obvious character, Cyborg, who is half man, half machine, and a black person. No, it was about Starfire. She faced racism, right? And it was specifically about her being an alien race from another planet in the galaxy. And that's just a giant blanket term for people on the planet, which is wide and vast for you. Like, it's incomprehensible to you on a basic scale. So it's not that hard to understand how they're relative to each other,
It's
how
like,
one stands in for another.
yeah, it's like another good example I'd say is that well, not racism, but like politics. There's this one episode of Doctor Who where I don't know if you've seen this one, but okay. So essentially, in a previous story, the Doctor stopped the Zygons from like endangering Earth and actually helped them make peace on the planet. And in the two-parter that follows, there's like this rogue sect of Zygons that want to take over Earth because they feel mistreated. And yeah, that's sort of racism, but my point is that when threatened with the likelihood of war, the Doctor is like, "That's stupid." But I'm not quoting him, but essentially what he says is, "That's stupid. This is pathetic. I have been in a war that is way bigger than this, and like I can tell you how bad it can get. I'm telling you to stop because I know the mistake you're about to make." And one of his quotes in that whole speech is that, "Why don't people just sit down and talk?" Which is not. It's just like at first it's like, yeah, we wish it was that easy, but then you have to think, how many of these issues could be, how many of like our real life issues could have been fixed if people just sat down and discussed them. And
I'd imagine only 20% because the other 80 times they'd fight in the middle of discussion.
yeah, but like actual communication goes a lot further than like blind violence.
That is definitely true.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, the human race is prone to continue making this mistake.
yeah, which is also why it's kind of depressing that it does not apply to real life. Thankfully, it applies to fiction, so that's nice, and that
Yes.
and that's like what we should be focusing on.
It's also interesting to compare and contrast because each piece of fiction, while yeah, it has obvious tones and themes, is technically relative and unique to you as a person because each person's interpretation of a medium is unique to their own personal experiences.
Exactly. Again, I was talking about this to Joe. Um, when you are sitting down and watching something, I believe you are entitled to your own opinion, and um not just if you like it or not, but like why you like it. And if someone does not like what you like, you can voice your opinion on why you're confused about why they don't like it. But you should not like call them out, or you can call them out, but you can't call them out like violently and assault them verbally.
Don't aspire to change their opinion in negative means,
Yeah,
right?
like
Try to understand and conversate about it.
you can try to change someone's opinion. That's all well and good as long as you don't try to force your opinion on them.
Right. Hence the negative means.
Yeah, it's like it's like I don't like I don't like Demon Slayer because I think it's just boring and it just does not appeal to me at all. This is not my opinion of Demon Slayer, by the way, but if for anyone listening, I'm just using it as an example. But other people are going are other people can come and tell me after I say that, I think you're wrong because it's actually a really deep story and you have to look into it a lot more, but it's deep, it's fascinating, it's amazing, and I'm like, and like, will I change my opinion immediately because this person said that? No. Am I going to look at it in a different light? Probably. When you tell someone that they should like this, or it's peak fiction, or or like you're a disgrace because you don't like it, that's gonna make them not like it all.
This is all true.
Yeah.
But I have one thing to say. We're straying from the main topic.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely are. Let's get to question 3.
Okay. How do you think cinematography and camera work comes into play with films, like people's enjoyment of films and stuff like that? And can a good script, and can a good script and can a good script carry a story, or can a good script and visual effects carry the story, or do you need like actual technique with the camera to actually make that effective? Did I say yeah?
Okay. I feel like this is okay. On a fundamental level, I think that's an obvious yes, right? Obviously, on every level, camera work and cinematography is equally important, if not more important, than the story being written. And it's for one reason and one reason only, right?
Mm-hmm.
With a book, you can write it however you want. It's just text. There's no visual medium to go alongside it.
Yeah.
But when you're writing a script, half of it is the words they're saying, and the other half is how they're saying it, how it looks when they're saying it, the type of gear they're wearing, right? Because the surroundings, the setting. You can get Superman's speech, right? The world of cardboard. It's so iconic, right? It's so great, and
Yeah.
it fits him so perfectly. But if you slap it onto a supervillain, you don't get the same. Oh my God, he's a great hero. Want to know why? Because even though it's the same words, the
It's a
exact
different.
same
Yeah.
bar for bar, because the person is different, the way they're saying it is different, and their intent is different, and most importantly, how the camera treats them as a villain, painted in an entirely different light. If
Speaking.
Darkseid was the one to say it, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll just say what you were gonna say. If Darkseid was gonna say that, then I wouldn't be inspired. I'd be fucking terrified.
Right.
Like.
And on another level, right? I keep saying this phrase. Not only does cinematography carry something, but all the other aspects of filmmaking carry that thing. Right? You can have the camera be good, and you can have the lines be good, but the voice actor or the actor just suck. Right? Like, imagine Shadow saying, Chaos Blast, but it's Chaos Blast. He just says the words Chaos Blast. And then you have this cool pan out shot, and it's a big explosion, and the music's like going so amped up, right? And he's just looking so bored. It's not even cool because he doesn't look right. He doesn't sound right. Everything else
Yeah.
is going crazy, but he himself is just meh. And so the scene comes off meh.
Yeah. I said this earlier when I asked this to Joe. But the but a good story can carry a film, if you ask me. A good story with good actors and good like decent visual effects can carry a story. Similarly, a good camera work and good visual effects can carry a film because if the story is bad, then you can gawk at the good visual effects.
That's true too. That is
There,
also a good point.
there is still an appeal even if the story is bad, and there's still going to be an
I
appeal.
think that's what turns a lot of people off from Demon Slayer, like in general, because the first season isn't all that deep plot wise. And I'll say this like straight up, it's not very deep, but it looks so good that at first you'll only be there because the visuals are great, and then the story actually finally gets that second layer you've been waiting for, and now you're invested in both the story and the visuals instead of
Yeah.
just the first.
And
Although some
then
people like simple stories, so you know.
yeah, and then um and then like you can have a good story and bad visual effects. People will still like it, even though the visual effects are bad. Um, I'm gonna use Pokemon Scarlet and Violet as an example for this, I guess. Even though I don't think the visual effects are bad, other people do. But the story in Scarlet and Violet is really good. It's the best story in a Pokemon game since Black and White. I've said this like 1,000 times, and I'm not gonna stop saying it. But
Black and White is peak though.
um, but the point is that it's a good story. It's enjoyable, and it has amazing visual effects, camera work, dialogue, everything. But the point that like it glitches and some visual errors are what bog it down. It's still enjoyable. It's still enjoyable despite that. People are still hooked despite like the technical flaws. Now,
Oh yeah.
now, now take a really bad film, Catwoman. I've used this example before. Catwoman is a very bad film, a very bad story, very bad adaptation of character, very bad characters in general, very bad story, very bad camera work, and very bad visual effects, and no one likes it. Even and in like, it's because it has nothing. Even though everything is at a consistent quality, utter garbage. There's nothing appealing to it, and thus no one likes it. You can have an amazing story, you can have an amazing set of visual effects, you can have an amazing soundboard, but like if you have if you don't have at least one of those things, then you're just not making a good product.
Yeah. I think music is also very underappreciated because like the music going into a product makes it that much better or that much worse.
It's like let's uh Devil May Cry again for an example, I guess. The music is part of why that series is so successful. The
Oh
music is
yeah, definitely.
the music is amazing. I have Devil Trigger. I think I'm like 100 views on Devil Trigger on my own.
I have 1,000,000 views. I swear to God, I'm pretty sure it's not an exaggeration. I'm very light, and it's amazing. All right, it is the best song in gaming history, and the only game series that compares in music quality is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Like music enhances an experience. Like it also keeps you engaged. Good music
Oh yeah,
can good music can keep you engaged in anything. Um, and actually, like back to films. Bullet Train does not have like outstanding music, but it's a good film. Why it's a good film is
I'd
really
I'd suggest Bullet Train doesn't have outstanding music, but rather it succeeds at having subtle themes that steer you in correct directions for what the film is trying to convey.
it's like
That's my take on that.
um in my opinion, right? Bullet Train isn't successful because of like sound design or anything like that. It's not bad, but it's like kind of average when it comes to sound design. I never really was like, oh, this music is amazing. But
That's very true. The music in Bullet Train is not all that impressive.
like but the fact that the visuals, the actual stuff going on screen is amazing on its own, and the fact that I am able to look at what's going on screen, and that's all that's hooking me. And I'm like, yeah, this is amazing. This is what I like about this. That that is that, and like then you have the story of Bullet Train. It's pretty basic. Is it a good story though? Yes, it's an amazing story. I love it. Um, this is an example of like a good story and a good story and good camera work and good visual effects, all culminating in like an amazing film. You can have a good story, bad camera work, and bad visual effects. It'll probably not be as successful, but it's like people will still like the story. You can have good camera work and good
Yeah,
visual effects, but like a bad story, people will still like the visual effects. In summary, if you have like at least one of those three core qualities, the film's going to be good.
hey, we're saying all of this, and
You
watch
can
it be that the universe proves us wrong 5 minutes from now.
imagine, imagine, imagine they released like a really shitty film, and like a really good film that's all just camera work.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. Next question, because we're nearly 40 minutes into this. Oh God, editing is gonna be hell. Okay. Whenever you go to watch a movie, start a TV show, or pretty much any series, do you look at reviews or do you just like going in blind? This is pretty simple.
I feel like that depends for me personally on what it is, right? Like, for example, I really enjoy, say, Don't Make Cry, so I do not look at spoilers at all, right? Because I want to experience it myself. But on other things, I just kind of like meh about. Yeah, definitely. God of War Ragnarok, I didn't really care. I mean, okay, that's why. I love God of War a lot. But my love for Don't Make Cry is substantially more. So, in my opinion, watching the spoilers for God of War Ragnarok doesn't ruin the experience for me because I'm going to experience it still as if it's new when I play the game. Because hearing about it and experiencing it are two different things.
Yeah. For me,
And
it's
it's all
like, um, for me, it's like if a friend says, "Oh, this new show is bad, don't watch it." I'm like, okay, you're my friend. I trust you, and if you say it's bad to my face, then yeah, it's probably bad. Or like I
yeah,
probably wouldn't like it myself. Like, you're very experienced in this, but I have at some point come to your DMs about like really bad shows, and I've only continued watching them, and I've not recommended them to you, but I think that I've steered you away from like at least two British TV shows just
all
by like
British TV shows except Doctor Who actually,
yeah.
because all of those TV shows you come to me from that are British outside of Doctor Who are garbage.
Mm,
I've not heard a single good British shot of you except for Doctor Who, and it's amazingly hilarious. So I just never go on BBC outside of Doctor Who.
I mean, like
Um,
I don't watch much of the BBC myself. There is an issue of David Tennant you should watch, but I won't go into that. Um, but like but if it's something that I want to, but like again, Pokemon, because like the new Pokemon game had really bad reviews. And I have gone back and looked at these reviews after playing the game, and it's like, okay, I don't agree with this. But before I bought the game, I was like, you know what? This game's getting a lot of backlash. I want to see what all the backlash is about. I listened to a video. I'm like, okay, I'm still getting the game though, even though it's bad. I want to see it for myself. I play the game. I get none of these like absurd glitches or like absurd statements that everyone else is getting. Like my game was near perfect with almost no glitches. The only glitches were like camera placements, and I could easily fix those. So it's like don't always listen to people on the internet, especially strangers on the internet that tell you
Yeah,
that something sucks because they're probably wrong or like it probably won't apply to you. And like it's always nice listening to someone else's opinion. Don't let their opinion rule your judgment.
that's definitely true.
Yeah. Okay. So we've said our piece on that question. So this is the juicy question. Okay. What kind of heroes do you prefer? Do you have any examples of like your preferences, and do you have like a trend in your tastes?
I am a classic person. And I mean this wholeheartedly. My favorite video game characters come from the early 2000s, right? And the late 90s. My favorite anime comes from the 80s and 90s,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, just in general, everything I love happened when I was born or shortly before it. And not many things do I like came after those time periods. And that goes for my music too. So, in general, you could say Ratchet and Clank, Dante from Devil May Cry, God of War, Bayonetta, Sonic, Mario, Goku, Kenshiro, Naruto, Ichigo from Bleach, Ben 10, Generator Rex, like all of them, the common trait they share is classic. But if we're going into character, right, then I'd say I have a varied taste because I go from crazy brutal protagonists like say Kratos, yeah. And then you have other protagonists who are supposed to be like Superman, kind of, where they're inspirational and they don't kill, like Batman or
Yeah.
Ben himself. I think I just depends on what I'm feeling because I like to think that taking a bit from each genre gets you a lot bigger of a perspective on these issues that they try to talk about or just approaches on writing in general.
Yeah. So I agree. I like you said it better than I could actually because my favorite hero uh and and I'm gonna put this in context for you, right? I have been a fan of I grew up with Yu-Gi-Oh. I grew up with Yu-Gi-Oh, Justice League. Like I didn't grow up with them, but they were on my TV and like I watched them. Yu-Gi-Oh, Justice League,
He's
Bakugan.
actually 70, guys. He's actually 70.
Um, and then and like a lot of those shows that I watched as a kid, I still watch to this day because I'm 16 now, not 70. But most of those shows came when I was like 8 or 9, and despite like that being like a childhood memory, I still look to them because they're cool, and I still have similar taste to when I was a kid. That does not mean that I still like everything I did when I was a kid. I definitely don't like certain series. Like there was this one show that was on Cartoon Network. I forgot the name, but I was into it as a kid. Then like I watched a video on it, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty fucked up. I hate this now because of this. And like that's telling of like how fickle I was as a kid. But like um I think that if you like experiment with other genres and media, you're definitely gonna enjoy stuff more. Because I am just as much as a fan of Goku as I am a fan of like Eggsy from Kingsman.
Yes.
Because both of
I
them are
also just think that genres in themselves open a lot of gates. And I wish they were crossed over more, right? Like, of course, you have your multifaceted series, like Dragon Ball is both fantasy and sci-fi. But then there are some series that are just so strictly so sci-fi that it's kind of sad they don't involve themselves in other kinds of genres, like Ratchet and Clank.
something I always liked about Doctor Who was that that like it wasn't afraid to go into like mystery and drama and like conspiracy theories. because like it's a sci-fi show at heart, but it doesn't but isn't like consistently science fiction.
Right.
Because like it has so much potential besides that, and like it's definitely lived up to a lot of that potential. So much so that 60 years on, I think we're still barely scratching the surface.
That'd be a valid take. That is a cold take, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, some people say the formula is tired. I'm saying just get better writers.
Put me over there. You'll know it'd be great. You'll know it'd be great. I'll be a top 10 writer.
Yeah,
I'd be peak.
I'll give you a glowing review to to BBC. Okay,
It should be good.
okay. So why are films, TV show? Okay, we already went over this question, I think, in our first one, didn't we?
Yeah, that's because we're cool and great at sidetracking ourselves into answering more questions than are asked of us.
This is why I didn't want to do a question format because, but like I needed something. I needed something for like proof that I wrote something down. So, um, this is another question I wrote down for someone else, but I'm gonna ask, but I'm gonna say this here anyways. When you write something creative, do the ideas come to you instantly, or do you have like inspiration from other pieces of media? And I'm gonna specify here for you. Um, this isn't like you come up with ideas for characters in fiction. This is you coming up with ideas for characters you have made yourself, like like your own things, not just like I want Dante to do this in the next game. Ooh, what's this?
It's a combination of both, right? Because on one end, when I say or do something, I'll just create like inspiration like that, and you can verify this. You'll say something, I'm like, I have an idea. Boom. You said one word, and I already have 50 ideas, and
Mm-hmm.
I can explain all of them, and they're all completely different and unique.
Yeah.
But on the other end, sometimes I'm just not feeling the creative energy of going, and sometimes it will come to me not because I'm thinking about it, but because I'm watching something else. And it's like that's a cool concept. I wonder how I could spin that
Yeah.
for
It's
like my
like
own personal use.
yeah. It's like watching Doctor Who. It's like yeah. I wanna write Doctor Who one day. Like it would be amazing to get into the BBC, get into BBC, write Doctor Who, get into that stuff. At the same time, I also want to write my own like original stories. So
Same here.
like so like so it's like I always come up with ideas for my own stories, and yeah, I write them down. I put them down somewhere, but I never get to flesh them out because I don't want to jump the gun. I don't want to develop one idea. I want to have a bunch of ideas laid out for me so that when I am writing professionally, I have all of these ideas from my childhood that I can refine or like perfect. One of my earliest ideas for a story, I think, was like looking back on it. It was really similar to Devil May Cry. This was before I even knew
Oh
Devil
my
May Cry
god,
was
he
a
was
thing.
copying and pasting. He's copying
And
plagiarism.
it's like I didn't know Devil May Cry was a thing back then, but then like because like before I knew you, before you introduced me to it, I had another friend who was into the series, and I was like, this looks cool, but I don't want to like get too into it because like I just did not like that person. But now it's like I then that series then now I get like a lot of inspiration from that series, and like it helps me write emotions and stuff like that a lot more. But most of the time when I get ideas, it's like it's not when I'm watching a video or something, it's when I'm like walking down the street, I see something, I'm like, you know what? I have an idea now, and then like sometimes that idea just like fades away because I'm already doing something else. I'm working on an assignment, but when I do get to write that idea down, it's like, yeah, I'm satisfied with what I wrote down. I do want to flesh out more though.
It's funny that you say walking down like the street, because I get my ideas from just like sitting in the car.
Sitting in the car is like sitting in the car is wild.
Like as long as the car is in motion, I'm just sitting and thinking. And I'm like, I get ideas, like a lot of ideas.
I mean, there's an entire movie set on a bullet train, so like anything can happen. Like
That is true.
yeah, okay. If we're talking like a main source of inspiration, then Doctor Who is probably like the main source of inspiration because it's the series I'm most like entrenched in, and I consumed like a lot of Doctor Who. So a lot of my ideas are going to be influenced off of like a concept that was rattled off in Doctor Who and never expanded upon. And I was like, you know what, I could do a lot of that. Or you know what, this concept is cool, but I did not do enough with it, so I'm gonna do more with it myself.
Right.
Uh, Usually it branches off into like more bigger stuff, and then like that's like Doctor Who being a main source of inspiration for me is also why I want to get into writing Doctor Who, because it would be cool to just write down all my stupid ideas and put them into a script. I
Yeah.
I can't do that bad. If like if Chris Chibnall has a chance, I definitely have a chance.
You definitely have more than a chance.
Yeah,
More than a chance. That it's like night and day. Okay.
yeah, okay. So
My main source of inspiration doesn't exist because when I get into a series, I hard focus and I entrench myself in the lore the same way I entrench myself in all lore from every series I know. And you can back this up too. I go into Dragon Ball, I was like, yes, I am deep in the lore. And the same goes for Devil May Cry, Naruto,
yeah,
anything else I'm getting into,
yeah, fuck, like
Sonic.
okay. Don't even get me started on Sonic Lore. You have like
Sonic lore is great.
you and Tony have single handedly altered my perspective on Sonic, both in a
You
good
thought they were
way.
wall level. You thought they were wall level. You were like, you think he's just like wall level, guys. Like, why are you talking about this? Like, you've never played a single Sonic game, have you? Like, I played them like occasionally. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, time to educate.
You didn't even need to educate me. I was just there. I was existing, and then I'm not gonna get into it. Okay. Next question. We're 8 questions in. We're actually going much quicker than I did with Joe. So this is good. Um
I am nuanced. Thus, I give great, quick, but expansive answers.
okay. So we don't need to answer the ninth question, so we can skip that as well. Um with shows like The Boys and Invincible becoming more common as deconstructions of the typical ideas of a hero and in other cases the genre as a whole, what is your stance on this? Do you love these shows, books, etc., or do you feel they've already become a bit overdone and outstated? Welcome.
It's a good question. My take on it is twofold. On one end, right, as long as hero stories exist, deconstructions of them have always existed. The same reason, like that's how I feel about anything. As long as one thing exists, there's been a counter that's come up to it that has existed for just as long, if not longer. And the same goes for here. And on another note, right, I don't think they can ever overstay their welcome because of that. Right? Superman exists, and the first thing DC does, outside of make more heroes, is ask themselves, what happens though if Superman goes bad? and they make a bunch of evil Superman comics too, and it works and it's popular. And the reason why is because it's such a great question. Even if it's been a bit overdone, it's still a great question that will always plague just people in general.
Yeah.
And I don't think they ever will upstate their welcome, or it is overdone really, because each take is hopefully unique and expensive and different. I said expensive instead of expansive. Expansive and different.
Yeah.
Like, I hope that each take on this formula is different in some way. And I think each take does it in ways that both reveal and kind of disclose information. And I say that and like puts away information and like hides it in ways that we never saw before, right? For example, Injustice, so many people forget that Joker isn't just dangerous to Batman. He's dangerous to everyone. Cosmic beings, gods, like everyone is afraid of the Joker because he's just that dangerous. But he hard
Hmm.
focuses Batman because that's who he's obsessed with. And Justice goes, what if Superman went evil? But the reason why he went evil is because the Joker messed him up. He used his cunning, his great brilliance to damage and destroy Superman on a fundamental level.
Yeah.
And the Superman that arrives isn't some evil dark side. No, he's a dictator who's just trying to prevent it from ever happening again. So, well, yes, Superman's written terribly, I'd say, in that comic. The reason why it works as a fundamental concept is it takes things that we already knew, explains how things that we knew are different from how we understand them, and then takes that information and creates a new plot out of it. And then on the flip side, there are totally different concepts that kind of run counter to what we imagine. For example, Soviet Superman is literally just Superman, but what if he was raised by Russia? He's not a villain. In fact, he's a hero over in that comic. We view him as a villain. We, the Americans in that comic, view him as a villain because he is a walking nuclear deterrent and he's not on our side.
Yeah. Okay.
He doesn't do
So,
anything wrong outside of support Stalin, but even then he wasn't understanding, even fully, what Stalin was doing. And in
and the
fact, the
moment
giant
he
portion,
realized what Stalin was doing, he was against him.
yeah, and a giant portion of the story is him trying to be good and thinking he's doing good, but not realizing that what he's doing, even though he views as good, isn't viewed as good by everyone else. It's
Yeah.
the asking what happens if Superman becomes a Russian is just saying he'll still be Superman. He'll still be that guy. He'll just he'll be lost on his way first before he gets to where he needs to be.
Yeah. And in my opinion, I don't think they can overstay their welcome, but I feel like the typical what would happen if the same Superman formula happened, but an additional factor is introduced is kind of overdone on its own. Because you have this is the second time I'm bringing you up, but Homelander. Homelander is a good deconstruction of the Superman ideal. It is a good deconstruction of like the concept of Superman. But
TV Homelander is, but let's put
yeah,
it that way.
yeah. But like the but like but Superman but like the concept of Superman is inherently that he's a good person. He does no harm to people. He does not want to hurt people. Superman in general is a nice and kind person. And the only that's and like then you have Invincible, um which isn't a deconstruction of Superman, but it's more like a deconstruction of the superhero genre. Not in the way that The Boys is, but it's more like yeah, superheroes are fun and good, but like what about the people that actually get hurt because of them? What about the people that
In my
like
opinion, the best way to describe it, and we've talked about this before, The Boys is a deconstruction of superheroes by a person who hates superheroes, Invincible is deconstruction of superheroes by a person who loves superheroes.
Exactly. Like, Invincible still has the ideals of hope and justice and being a good person, because being a good person is its own reward. These are ideals that people should strive for. We as people should not need any ulterior motive to go out of our way and give and assist someone. And yeah, sometimes that's not how it works. Sometimes you need a reason to help someone. They have to be your friend. They have to be someone you trust. They have to be someone you like. Or in other case, but the point is that yeah, that's not always a factor, though, is it? It's not always going to be that extreme. It's not always going to need that level of trust. It doesn't take much to go out and help someone.
Yeah, that's a good summarization of how I feel about it.
Yeah, it's and like if you're deconstructing Superman, the boys is already there. Don't try it if you ask me. And Omni Man's also like a good example of that, but Omni Man's his own thing if you ask me. He's not
In my
meant.
opinion, I think what people are tired of is what you're describing. Superman himself. They deconstruct Superman, and the reason why is because of something we've already discussed. Superman is the walking superhero archetype.
Yeah,
He is the walking superhero archetype. So when you ask yourself, like, who are you to just like deconstruct when you deconstruct the word superhero? If you're first thinking on what superhero is, will always be Superman, then you're always asking yourself, who are you? You're deconstructing Superman. When you deconstruct the person superhero, if the baseline superhero is Superman, then you're always deconstructing Superman at the end of the day.
yeah, and okay, if you're deconstructing Superman, and I think that personally, this is like okay, if you're going to deconstruct Superman, then deconstruct Superman. Don't don't go into an alternate universe and dissect his character. Actually delve into his motivation as a person in the as the main story. Stories that have done this are successful because they actually go into depth of why Superman is like this and Superman's motivations.
All Star Superman is the peak version of this.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Like, that is the perfect example of Superman. And
He
it's
is
also
walking, talking peak Superman. I love it.
and it's also like Superman isn't good because he has a motive. But why does Superman not need a motive? Superman does not need a motive because um well, he was raised that way. And that on its own should be like, oh fuck.
Hmm.
like when when people are like, if Superman was real, then I'm gonna stop you there. That's what I would say. If Superman was real, the sentence could stop there because Superman's not real. And two, if you're about to say if Superman was real, he'd be a maniac. Then I mean you're not completely wrong. That's not the point of Superman. Superman isn't meant to be real.
He is meant to be the ideal that people strive for,
Yeah,
which is something we talked about earlier. Some heroes and some people use fiction not just to escape, but to relate to deeper things. They books speak to people, and people speak to books.
exactly. It's like, okay. You know what? We're gonna try to end this podcast on a bit of like a controversial take, I guess. I think not a controversial take, but like this is a controversial take that people have. Do you think superhero films, TV shows, and comics have lost their touch?
No.
Exactly.
And I think, right, the fact we're able to have the discussion says a lot, but the reason people think this way, in my opinion, is one, the DCEU is a thing,
Mhm.
and outside of like one or two movies, it's garbage.
I mean,
And two,
people say Black Adam is good, but I haven't seen it.
I said one or two movies, but like unironically, everything not Superman, Batman is good. Like everything not that too is good. Aquaman, that's pretty good. Shazam, that was great. Black Adam, it was above average, but not great. You know, it was like in between average and great.
I mean, okay. I personally
The
count
first
the
Wonder Woman movie, that was pretty good.
I personally count like the Dark Knight trilogy, and Matt Reeves' Batman as separate from like DCU because they're meant to be
Well,
separate.
that is its own thing. It is its
Yeah.
own thing.
Which is why
The
like
Batman's also really good too.
yeah. I could have done a whole podcast on why the Batman is good, but that
And
that
then
but
the other reason people think Superman movie or superhero movies have gone out of touch is the one juggernaut of the superhero industry, right? Is quote unquote bad in quality, but it's not. It's the same thing people have loved. The problem is they've just finished a giant climactic story, and so now we're winding back down. We have to start building up again.
it's like
But
you are talking about Disney, right?
not just like I was talking about Marvel films in general,
Oh,
right? Like the MCU.
yeah.
But that's their parent company, and that's the truth. Marvel just came out of the Endgame, right? They finished a giant saga spanning 11 years. Characters being
Mhm.
phased out, characters are being put in. They're changing
Actually,
how they approach
actually,
their
like,
canon
um,
types.
actually, like, bringing up the MCU. When people say the MCU is like all the same, I'm like, did you watch the MCU?
Right.
Because, like, okay, it has the same basic formula, like, consistently, but is that a bad thing? It's tonally consistent. Um, like, okay, yeah, sometimes it's kind of like, why is this, like, played off as jokes? But, like, are you going to complain that that your movie that your movie has jokes that make you laugh in it? Or
Are you
like
going to complain that the kid-friendly movie that's like offered to both children and adult alike is family friendly?
it's like complaining that Pokemon doesn't have death in it because even though it's an E-rated game.
That's crazy because Pokemon does have death in it. You
Um
can actually go to Pokemon gravestones. And even crazier, not only can you go to Pokemon gravestones, but entire Pokédex entries are dedicated to Pokemon kidnapping and killing kids.
there are also like the new Pokédex entries and the new games are wild. I think I
Oh,
showed you one. Wait.
yeah, like they're just all Pokédex entries in general are just whack and wild and crazy. And it's rated E for everyone. But you want to know why it's still able to do that? Because no one reads the Pokédex entries except for the nerds. It's sad, but it's true.
Okay. I'm gonna stop you right there, right? Like, um, I think I told you, but like Pokemon's already taken a big step forward of depth in in like its content because spoiler alert for those who have not like looked up Scarlet and Violet at all. The main professors in the games are dead.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're dead. They are gone. They are completely dead. They do not
And they're
exist.
not named after trees.
He's still pressed over this.
It's been a fundamental concept since Gen 1, and they decided to change it. Why? Why? You can't run out of trees. There are here an infinite amount of trees. You could have did it. You're just being lazy. Find a tree, name them after it.
Oh, hold on. We're going a whole side quest right now. Hold on. Wait, fuck. Okay. Wait. Turo. Yeah, they aren't named after trees, which is wild.
Failures. Failures to the Pokemon legacy.
Even but like yeah, but the MCU I'd say it hasn't lost its touch. I say like when people say that movies in general have lost their touch, I'm like, have you seen movies recently, or have you just watched like one and said, yeah, this sucks? Because
The
then like
Batman, great. Doctor Strange, great. No Way Home, great. Even the Matrix movie that everyone calls bad, I wasn't even like saying it's bad. It's like it's at least average. It's at least average. It's not bad. It's not good, but
like
it's not bad.
I
It's
mean, it's
just
like
good.
I think our society has been given too much content that's good to actually call it good. Because
Yeah,
like again, Pokemon games. But these Pokemon games are amazing. I will stand by that. People will disagree with me, but like this is the first main series Pokemon game that's completely open world. It's the first game. It's the first game in the series that introduces like well, not the first. But it's like, but like it incorporates darker themes into it, and not just that. It's also pretty blatant about what happens in it. In one in the cutscene, it in the cutscene that in the cutscene that we find out that the professor's dead. The AI takes over the professor that takes over his identity isn't like, oh, he lost his life, or oh, he was lost to this. He just said he's dead. He said he passed away. He was attacked by Pokemon and he died. It's just like okay, I did not expect that from a Pokemon game, but the fact that it was there is cool. And it's the same with the
that's
MCU.
upfront about it. Yeah, the fact it was upfront about it and not trying to hide it.
Yeah, it's like this is a good Pokemon game because it isn't bad. Because it isn't trying to hide it, isn't trying to make it soft. And like, yeah, kids play this game, but they aren't going to get traumatized over the fact that, but like, they aren't going to get traumatized over it. And the fact that kids are being exposed to death in the children's game is like good because it also prepares them for when that's actually meant to happen to people in like their actual life. Which is why death in fiction is always like is like always a good thing if you ask me. Because it's like kind of preparing kids for when death actually happens in real life, whether that's 2 years away or like 20 years away. It's gonna happen eventually. So like,
I mean, I'm gonna live forever.
yeah,
I'll enjoy all DMC, Dragon Ball Z content, and Sonic content for the rest of eternity.
mm. Anyways,
And I'll share it with you. I'll
that
share it
was
with you.
anyways, yeah,
Don't
that was
worry.
the last question, so we can cut it off here.
This was the big question. Remember to subscribe, comment, and like.
Yeah.
Hit the bell.
Anyways, yeah, that's it. I'll be seeing you later with Tom and Joe.
Of
Because
course, of course.
because we're doing separate recording sessions because this guy over here lives in the U.S. and has to make it difficult for me.
Oh yes, my geographic location is my problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh wow.